First of all, it's the holidays, and you have a tree behind you and your office. Can we talk about your office for a second? This is, first of all, I've been to a lot of offices, and I love your office. I think it's like one of the most welcoming places. You guys have a cafe. I mean, it's just outstanding.
Well, that's a nice thing to say.
Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to be welcoming. I mean, we spend a lot of time here, and
yeah,
I think that it's got to, the mindset is it's got to keep getting better every year. And look at that tree.
I mean, it's gorgeous.
I know.
For people that are listening to this audibly, it is a beautiful, big, spruce-looking tree with like big bulbs, and I mean, it screams the holidays for me. You know what's really crazy though? I want to do this someday. I'm going to go around the world and visit agencies like Cribs. Remember Cribs on MTV? I'm going to go around and do that. I think that would be the coolest thing, just to go and check these out and show people around offices.
So Jessica here. So Jessica started Conduit Cribs, where she goes into everybody's office and they do a office reveal.
Hey, this is Jessica and this is Conduit Cribs. So making your way down the hallway a little bit, I do have more seating if you'd like. Kickoff calls are normally in here. I like a full party.
See, you guys are way ahead of the game.
We're just.
I'm just saying, I think it would be amazing. I remember somebody back when I was working at Yelp in San Francisco, somebody tried to do it with tech companies. But then it got really crazy because you go into all these different tech companies. You go into Square. Square, by the way, is one of the most unbelievable offices I've seen. It's in San Francisco. Everything's open. You can see through everything. They don't believe in they believe in transparency. So all of the you would hate this so much. I just look at you. I'm thinking about it. So imagine.
I'm just thinking that if Yelp started it, they could just give every other office a bad review.
I knew there was going to be some kind of punch in there. Oh man. You know, it's really funny. Consumers loved us. They love Yelp. They love oh my goodness, writing reviews and all that stuff. That's the reason why it really took off. Businesses hate Yelp. They hate it because it's kind of like a necessary evil to them. But anyway, that's besides the point. Anyway, so yeah, I'm excited about this. This has been a crazy year for me. I was trying to reflect on this personally and moving everything across the pond and being here in London. Working with you guys for the year has been awesome. And then also starting Agency Talk, even though we're only, probably shin deep into this thing, it has been, I've already learned so much from just sitting in this chair and listening to people.
Yeah. Well, we've had the opportunity to have some really smart people on. So that's the coolest part. And, one of the things that you talk about all the time is, community. Mm-hmm. And I love how people have brought the spirit of community. So, if they've got something helpful to talk about, they're not afraid of sharing it with, people in our industry.
That's it's funny because what I wanted to do on our recap show, I wanted to talk about the big aha moments for both of us. And one of the big aha moments for me was that every single successful agency owner, because that's what we're bringing on here. We're bringing on people who have navigated a bunch of stuff and ended up somewhere on top. And every single person is so funny. It's you talk to the people that are technically on top and they don't even think they're on top. They're like, I'm not even there yet. And you're like, man, you are there. You have done so much and you're there. But the big takeaway for me, speaking of what you just said, was just the fact that none of them were scared to share. They didn't see, they're not afraid of competition, not even thinking about competition. That's in the rear view mirror. I talking to Jackie or to Eric, listening to them talk about it. They're like, oh yeah, if I meet another agency owner, it's always hey, I'll see you at the top. There's no scarcity mindset. They're willing to share because they are so dang dialed in to where they're going and just what their own mission is. I feel like they don't see competition. They see community. And I think that's where I was like, oh my goodness, the big aha moment for me was agency owners who are truly successful look at peers as people that they need around them to get where they're going and not looking at them being like competition. And that makes a lot of sense to me because let me ask you this. How many businesses do you think there are in the United States?
Oh gosh.
Just the ballpark.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. A million, at least.
At least. Yeah. A lot more. Yeah. A lot more than that. And especially we have 300 million people in the US. And it's funny because I'm even thinking we go.
I think there's 120,000 ad agencies.
That's what I was going to get to. 100,000 agencies. And how many do you think a really good ad agency can take on? Just an ad agency.
Clients?
How many clients do you think they can really effectively serve?
Depends. Maybe let's say 20 as a median.
Yeah, like a big one, right? And these are big. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I think about that and I go, okay, so we just said there are probably millions of businesses just in the continental United States. There are only like 100,000, 200,000 agencies that would actually, I'm not talking about somebody on Fiverr that just says I'm an agency. It's like, no, homie, you're not an agency. You do websites and stuff on the side. What I'm saying is like traditional true agencies, they can't serve all those businesses. And I think agencies are the backbone of America when it comes to the fact that they're serving businesses and keeping them afloat. And you know this better than anybody, being a white label. It's like the backbone of the backbone of the backbone that no one talks about, the secret weapon, you know. But I love that idea that if you really tap into the amount of need, agencies just can't. Like they can't even do it. They don't have the capacity to even address it. So we need as many agencies as possible, and to understand that, so they don't see each other's competition. That was a huge aha for me.
Yeah, and same here. But you brought up, you know, people like Eric and you know, the aha moment for me was just reinforced basically, which is the drive that it takes to produce, you know, a spectacular outcome. Like you know, like Eric has done, you know, with his agency, going all the way back. You know, he had a story that just made me laugh so hard because it was so relatable to me, and where he was just going door to door and selling, and the dog ripped off his pants, and yet he went in to make that presentation because that's why he was there.
When I was selling Cutco, I went to someone's house and they told me their dog was having a little, it was uncomfortable with people. And I was like, I'm a dog person. Don't worry about it. And they're like, well, do you mind if we'll hold him on the leash, but do you mind if we walk our dog by you and just see what he does? I'm like, yeah, whatever. I look away and I feel his nose hit my leg. The idiot dropped the leash. I felt its nose hit my leg. I pulled my leg away and it got a hold of my pants and ripped my suit pants clean off me. So now here I am standing in their driveway in my underwear, and they got the dog back. I was fine. My pants are gone. And I'm like, okay, so should we go inside? I got to show you some knives. And I went through the whole thing in my underwear with a suit jacket and tie and all of it on, but no pants.
And that kind of tenacity and that kind of focus and that kind of, you know, despite the odds type of mindset, I think is why, I think successful people like Jackie as well. Yeah. You know, she put her head down and she got after that, you know, to build a very, very nice agency. And I think what happens is you get your head down and you don't take those personal benchmarks to say, hey, you know, I'm successful, because the mission is, you know, ongoing. And, and, you know, Eric was talking about moving over into finance, and Jackie was talking about moving into some other areas. And you get that evolution, but your head is down working on that. So I don't think you take the time until you're probably out of it to evaluate, you know, your own success.
Yeah, you know what's really crazy? Not to interrupt you, but just to say on that note, is like there has to be this. If somebody wants to go, man, am I going to make it as an agency owner? The early indicator are stories like that, like this. You know, Jackie's vegan cookie. What was the name of that? What was the vegan cookie name? It was called something monkey. I don't know. It was bizarre.
Yes, it was. And it
was
like
Sweet Monkey. Sweet Monkey. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But anyway, I look at that story. I look at the, you know, Eric getting his clothes ripped off by a dog and going door to door. I think about your story of like selling your car. Do you remember that story you told me one time?
I remember it. Yeah.
Wait, let's elaborate on it really quick because it'll prove my point. So what did you do? You sold your car to keep the business going?
In the really early days. So I'm not, you know, and was not certainly then, you know, independently wealthy. And we started Traffic Builders, and we were running short, and we needed money. We were much smaller then, but we needed money for payroll. And the last thing I was going to do is stiff anybody. Jeez. So my car was paid off. I don't like to have debt, so most everything's paid off, and the car was paid off. And so I decided that to get enough cash to make the next couple of payrolls, I was going to, I pulled my car into a used car lot, and I said, I want you to buy my car, and I want you to sell it back to me. And I want you to give me the cash for the car. And they did. And that was, I think our payroll was so small then, but I mean, ultimately, it was the next couple of payrolls that it financed.
See, but that's
reverse mortgaging a car was not anything that was a thing back then, and also anything I'd recommend.
Yeah, but my point is, it's like, I don't think failure is an option unless you stop, right? And I think that a lot of people you and Eric, and it's the reason why we like these people. It's the reason why we love Clodagh. It's the reason why we are going to love all these different people. You're going to see a common theme. And I almost want to like make that a part of our segments going forward. It's like, tell us your early indication that you are not going to stop moment. And having your paid off car sold to buy it back and get the cash for it to make payroll is a big early indicator that like, no, nothing's going to stop us.
Well, things like failure is not an option sounds such a great thing to say, but it's much more difficult to implement.
Sure.
Because there's so many barriers that you get thrown at that Eric spoke to, that Clodagh has spoken to, and, that Jackie spoke to. It's not a straight line. It's not, there's no linear progression to success.
No.
And so ultimately you've got to be able to navigate those constant curveballs. And there's difficult moments in both starting and continuing to run and scale a business. So, I mean, one of the things I'm excited about is, as the reaction to Agency Talk has been outstanding. And I think we're both very blessed for, people giving us a few minutes to listen to what we have to say and the guests that we've got. But as we look forward to 2022, things like finance, things like legal, things like technology, things like communication platforms, these are all things that drive successful agencies. And, I would venture that we're going to explore some of those things next year to get really specific, to be able to bring our agency community and our agency leadership real value in terms of making choices that they're working on.
One of the things that you just said, this is the reason why we're about to make this announcement, which is exciting because I think it's a perfect timing to make it, is that we're launching an agency community. And it's crazy. When you say that, by the way, let me demystify it, because most people are like, oh, we're launching this thing. And we are creating a space for agency owners. We want to create a space for this conversation to keep going. The whole point of this podcast in general is because there's a massive need. We don't want to see agencies fail out. We want to be able to support them. Goodness gracious, do people need community? They need people like you. They need other people. Like, we want to be able to amass a group of people that are leaning on each other, that are trusting each other, that are in it together, that feel seen and heard and challenged. And there's some accountability in there. Like, we want that so much. So with that, even over these short amount of episodes, Tim and I just kind of were like, we need to launch that. And so it's great. In the new year, we at agency-talk.com, we are going to have a place for everybody who's listening to this podcast. If you're an agency owner or part of an agency, to be able to go over there and request access to it. It'll be private. It's us having conversations. It gives people an opportunity to ask questions. We get to support each other and be able to really truly see, which has mainly been our mission coming together to do this podcast, is to see more agencies scale and succeed. Like, that is 100,000% what we're dedicated to doing. And you can't do it without a community. So community it is.
Community it is. And we've talked about making it a safe place, and making it a collaborative place. And you talk about this a lot. And it's it's community versus competition, and it's like you said, this really successful people are in their lane and they're moving, and they're not worried about what their competitors are doing.
No.
And I think there's so much out there, and there's just such opportunity for the agency community to come together, and let's discuss best practices. Let's get into conversations that where we're sharing information about where we're headed, and maybe get into certifications. One of the aspects of our industry that a lot of people are talking about right now. So there's just so much opportunity in the space that as we pull people into it, and and this is certainly not reflective of you, but certainly of me, there's so many smart people out there that can contribute, to what that community looks like and the value that community brings. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, me too. And this is what we want. And we understand that there's a lot of communities to be a part of, but I want the transparency. We've got some crazy guests coming up in the new year. We've got Paul Rotzer, who literally wrote the marketing blueprint for agencies, but now is like super big in the AI community. We've got guys like Gary Vaynerchuk. We've got business owners like, Tiffany Saunders, who's out in literally the fastest growing agency in the Midwest. And by the way, I want to let everybody know this. I'm dedicated to finding the best agency owners on the planet and people who are doing big things in the agency world. But I'm also always going to provide space for people who you don't traditionally hear from. And, you know, I will say this is really important to me, is that there are incredibly badass women who are running agencies out there. There are incredible people of color that are running agencies out there. We need to hear from people. And I love that Tim and I are dedicated to giving people a platform that you might not have traditionally heard from. And that's where the freaking gold is, because those stories and that diversity brings so much to our industry. And I just think that our community also is a big part of that too, Tim. And I'm proud of that, because you and I have been so adamant about that, because people have done that for us. And I think that, you know, I just look at Conduit and the way that you, like the way you guys have set it up. And I see that being a major indicator for success and the reason why people are also experiencing it. So yeah, I'm just excited. This is going to be something huge. And yeah, like I said before, everybody's going to hear about it, because we're going to talk about it every episode to get people in the community.
But we're going to build, a truly global community. You know, you're in London, and Clodagh is certainly going to be a part of the agency community that we're building, and she's in Ireland. Yesterday, I was talking to a kid in New Zealand, and he's starting up an agency, and he called and he goes, "Could I pick your brain?" Mm-hmm. I'm like, "Oh boy, careful what you ask for," and just a young guy, you know, he literally 20 years old. Yeah. Starting an agency in New Zealand. And, you know, he's a very driven young man. And he's like, I want to do this the right way. I want to build the infrastructure so that I can scale. And, you know, there's so many people out there talking about scalability. There's just so many opportunities to bring the reality of scale, you know, in 2022, because, man, it's a lot of hard work. It's hanging around knowledgeable people that know what they're talking about, that can help you along that journey. And I think that's what Agency Talk is really going to be about, is having these knowledgeable people, you know, break down barriers for you, you know, on your own scalability journey.
Yeah. And how many times do we want that in our journeys, right? Like you just made a joke about it when we were kind of, you know, we always, just so everybody knows at home, we always kind of come on the show and we get all of our crap out first and just talk and whatever. And then we go, okay, well, we should probably record. But, you know, Tim said, you know, you've got 30 years of experience on me, right? And I feel like I know a lot in my naivety, kind of like my stupid pride. I feel like I knew a lot from what I've done in my experience, but there are so many things that I want to learn from people that have been there and done it. And that's laterally, and that's ahead of me, and that's behind me too. And I've always felt that way. So I feel like we can learn from everybody, because to be truly embody an agency owner spirit that both you and I respect, it's somebody who's in the trenches doing the work. It's the practitioner, not the theologian, right? It's the person who truly embodies what it means to do that. And also, I think you and I have a soft spot for people who are running businesses and taking that risk. And so, yeah, I'm pumped. This year's going to be insane. But before we get into this year's going to be insane, Tim, I do want to recall, I want to think back on just a few of our interviews so far. And I want something that surprised you. I want the thing that was like the pleasant surprise that you heard from one of our guests, or even the time that we've had in our conversations. And maybe I'll start to give you some time to think about it, because this is not in our notes, but I feel like it's probably a good way to end. The most surprising thing for me in just kind of these high capacity people that we interview is their hobbies. I always sit around and go, oh my gosh, they're the busiest people ever when you meet like a really successful agency owner. The thing that was surprising me, but I'm not really like surprised, but I'm surprised that it's a theme, is like Eric flying airplanes and just picking that up. I know for a fact, like if you think about Jackie, she was doing 75 hard and she's always pushing herself, and she's like doing Peloton and all this stuff. And then you look at like Clodagh, and Clodagh's like all over the world and mentoring all these people and like doing all that on top of
Clodagh's a power lifter.
Oh, I know. And then she has all these Olympic friends. Like I'm picking out all this stuff from people going like, damn, what is wrong with me? I need to do something. Like I'm sitting here going through my day at the end of it being like, I just need a drink and a lay down, you know? So I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised at the same time. But it was refreshing for me to hear that people still find this capacity to push themselves outside of their work and to really challenge themselves outside of, you know, something professional. They're finding all these personal challenges too. It seems like a trait, you know?
Yeah, it really does. And one of my kind of themes or threads, in talking to the folks that we have is their ability to self-reflect. And it's I would say, is sitting on your own shoulder and taking the temperature of the moment, of the room, of the opportunity, of the community, of whatever it is. And, when we were talking to Jackie, she's a very aware type of person. And I thought it was fascinating talking to her about her evolution of awareness and how that's helped her, in her own business. So there's just so many threads that tie all these things together. And I'm really excited to explore so many of them in 2022.
So I'm not only is that not surprised, I'm just like excited. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm excited.
That was that Homer Simpson moment where I feel like you just ate 3 peanut M&Ms and you're like,
No, I was, I'll be honest. I started daydreaming about next year, and I started thinking about. I was like, really in this moment. That's the thing about me. The thing that people probably also love and hate about me is like sometimes I can live in the future. And while you were talking, you said something that just made me go, "Oh yeah, I can't. This is what we're going to be doing in next year and doing this stuff." And then I came back into reality when you stopped talking, and I was like, "Yeah, what do I need to say to make it feel like I wasn't in outer space?" All right. Well, hey, okay. So here, let's land the plane, as my good friend Tim Burke likes to say. If you're listening to this podcast, we're thankful for you. We're so excited for this new year. We've got a lot planned. We already have some incredible guests lined up. Obviously, we've mentioned some of them, but we just have an incredible season coming up where we get to learn and sit with some of the best agency owners on the planet and people that are doing it right and have done it all wrong and that are willing to share and to selflessly be vulnerable with us on these microphones. And also, we're freaking excited about the fact that we are going to be launching the Agency Talk community. That's going to be private. That's for agency owners and agency folks only. And you have to go to agency-talk.com to request access. But we'll tell you that is going to be a safe space, like Tim said, a place that we can air it all out, ask questions. Because here's the thing: you can't go when you're trying to make payroll, and you can't go down and talk to your folks below you who work for you, right? Who are expecting the pay. So you got to have a place where you can go out and have peers and people who have been there and done it and currently in it. And so we're excited to create that community. And as always, I'm just so excited to be doing it with you, Tim. I'm thankful for you, and this has been awesome.
It's been so much fun having these conversations. So I hope. Listen, the last 2 years have been difficult on the entire world. It's been difficult on the agency community, and if we can bring through the conversations that we're having with people, some aha moments, some levity, and give you a few moments, to think about your agency without breaking your head. We appreciate it so much, and we're looking forward to bringing a lot more of it in 2022.
Absolutely. All right. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.